I'm Dr. Chamonix Blanche, ex-corporate and academical, turned CEO and board member of several companies and mother of 4 little extraordinary kids. But it wasn't that long ago that I lacked the confidence, the know-how, and the time to focus on designing and really going after the life that I so wanted to live. A life of freedom, of fairness, and of being fair dinkum to who I really was and what I wanted to get out of this fleeting time that we have on Mother Earth. Fast forward to many lessons learned and moving halfway around the world to the most amazing country, you'll see the life that I now live. One that gives me more safety and freedom than I ever thought would be possible, and that really only existed as a daydream while I was living in South Africa. I created Chamonix TV to give you true spot advice on how you can also live a life in this amazing country, and so that you can see how another couple like us now live in Australia with 4 little kids hearing down under. And I'll be providing you with step-by-step strategies so that you can make your Aussie dream a reality too. If you're a keen future Aussie who's looking to create a life that excites you and offers you safety, freedom, and opportunity, you have come to the right place, my friend. Welcome aboard.
Hi, Albert. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I really appreciate you taking the time out. And if you don't mind introducing yourself to our viewers.
Yeah, I'm Albert van der Vyver. We recently moved to Australia, been obviously from South Africa. Basically, the last few years stayed in Pretoria. I grew up in Cape Town, but my wife is from Pretoria. And yeah, this whole move is just something that happened very sudden for us. So we are in Australia now, and we really feel fortunate to be here. There's so many people that are struggling at this stage. I'm married and I've got 2 daughters, they're 11 and 14.
And you say recent. How recent is recent?
Yeah, we literally landed, Monday will be a week ago, we landed in Melbourne, and that was now after spending 2 weeks quarantine in Perth. We had to fly to Perth. It was the only way we could get into Australia. So we've been in Oz now, except now for quarantine, 5 days.
My goodness, that is fresh. How
Very
on
much.
earth did you manage to get into Australia in the middle of coronavirus? Because everybody thinks that there's not a single person allowed into Australia. How does that work?
Yeah, I think it's a common misconception, and even with our travels, we had tickets booked with Qatar. I joined the military this side, so it was a lateral transfer from the South African Air Force to the Royal Australian Air Force. So they booked us tickets on Qatar initially, which was in July, but it was a commercial flight, and then all the commercial flights got cancelled. So our flight as well twice got cancelled, and then Qatar started in, when was it? August. August. They started repatriation flights again, and I think it was a combination of luck, but I had a good travel agent that side, and we were fortunate enough we had business class tickets, although after the flight we realized that it actually didn't mean anything. Part of the issue is that the airlines are not very forthcoming in terms of how they select the 50 seats, because Australia even now have a cap in different cities now, but like Perth had a 50-seat cap per aircraft coming in. So I think it's a question of I think it was luck, but it was meant to be. Our whole story, and we'll probably get into it, the way it started and how quickly it happened. It's just the way our path was laid out.
That is incredible. And you said you're with the Air Force now. What do you do for them?
I'm actually a pilot in the Air Force, and my wife is an air traffic controller. So both of us managed to do the lateral transfer that side.
Oh, that's great. So did you say to them, we're a package? If the one goes, the other one should go as well?
It was actually a funny story. They are in quite need in the last year and a half of air traffic controllers. So a friend of my wife's, they came over in January, and basically just before they left, he went to and said, listen, they kept it very under wraps. And he basically said, listen, I don't know if you're aware of it, but there is opportunity now. And it's just something we never considered. Being in the military, I joined the military in 1995. So that's all I know. So I didn't want to move just for anything. My whole life was the military. So I was going to come over as daddy daycare. And I was going to look after the house and the kids, and it just panned out that we're fortunate, both of us able to come over, and we at the same unit or same base. So it wasn't initially the plan, but I mean, we're very grateful that both of us actually have the opportunity now.
Absolutely, that is such a great way to come in. So they sponsored you over, the Australian government, for the Air Force.
So I think it's a 186, so it's a PR visa. But the advantage joining the military, you have to apply for citizenship within 3 months of joining the Air Force. So that is one of the...
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's one of the things you need to decide beforehand. But you are forced in 3 months, which is July, basically November, we have to start the process to apply for citizenship. It's a requirement
very
from
interesting. Yeah. I didn't, because usually you have to live in Australia for 4 years before you're allowed to apply for citizenship. That's very interesting. Wow. Okay. And your daughters, you said they're 11 and 14.
Yes.
And in which city are you in Victoria?
Okay, so we're in Sale, Victoria, which is about 250 kilometers east of Melbourne. It's a very, I'm going to say it's a platteland, what do you call it, rural.
Yes.
But after being here now 4 days, it's not as rural as Google made it out to be. It's actually quite a decent city.
So there's more than only sheep walking around.
Well, there's a lot of sheep and cows. Our house is literally 50 meters from a farm fence. So when you sleep at night, you actually hear the cows at night, which is awesome.
Oh, wow. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So 11 and 14 years old.
Yes.
And so that would have been one in primary school and one in high school in South Africa?
Yes, that's correct.
And how's the move over going to be? Have they started school yet?
Yeah, so it was difficult. I mean, the oldest one enrolled in Pretoria at the office, Afrikaans Meisies Hoër. So it was a huge thing for her and for us as well. But it was so sad because basically when was the April that lockdown happened in South Africa? So she has been out of school since April.
Yeah, true.
So the whole coronavirus and lockdown and delay you can see it's been tough on them. They tried, well, not tried, but I mean they remote school, but it's just not the same. And then especially with the flights being delayed and we couldn't enroll this side. You have to physically be here to enroll. You cannot. That's just you have to have an interview with the school. So we lost out. But after arriving now, I must say the Aussies in that sense, they're very relaxed in terms of it's not like South Africa there in terms of the schools. They're very relaxed. It's like, we'll get to it. Don't worry. We'll try again next year. It's not as, I don't know how to word it. We're very driven in terms of school. If you miss out a month, you're not going to make it. It's completely different. They're more focused on individual kid and how the kid will proceed. But the youngest one has actually started with school now. The oldest one will only start school next term. So she's running the house at this stage.
Oh, good fun!
Yeah,
I'm sure she's cooking for you and cleaning for you and doing all those nice things.
It was fun for them the first 3 days, and then I think the reality set in.
Oh, that's very interesting. And when you told them that you guys are going to leave for Australia, how did they take it? What did they think is happening? Because you said you never contemplated leaving South Africa.
No, we literally 1 September was a year ago that my wife's colleague just spoke to her and said this is something. At that stage I was on a flight in Cape Town. I was 4 days in Cape Town, and I used the 4 days, and I just read up as much as I can about the Air Force. And when I flew back home, I told my wife, "You are applying. I think this is what we should do." So it was a shock. So it's literally our whole process took a year, but we played very open cards with them from the beginning. So even when we started the application process, we said this is what we're doing. We never alluded exactly in terms of why. In terms of the safety thing in South Africa. But what made it a lot easier for them is in the last year and a half, they lost about probably in their own classes, 3 or 4 people immigrating to Australia or New Zealand. So it wasn't a foreign concept to them. So they lost actually some of them close friends coming here. So for them, it was like they're almost moving back to them. So I think that helped a lot. It helped a lot in terms of understanding, but this is not something unique that we are doing now. The friends have also done it, so we're just following. So I think it helped them.
It's a very interesting point, because I recently spoke to another South African who told me, I think they came over at the beginning of this year, end of last year. And I said to them, was it a difficult thing for them to leave? And they said no, because in terms of friends. And he said no, because they were basically the last people left of their circle of friends in South Africa. All their friends had left to Canada and the UK and wherever else, basically all over the world. And they were the last people to leave. So in a way, it made it really easy for them, because they had nothing holding them there in that regard. So it's an interesting point. Tell me, your 5 days that you've been here, what did you do? Obviously past quarantine or after quarantine.
Yes.
What was the first thing you did when you guys got to sail?
We arrived, I think it was about 7:30 at night. We were fortunate enough, we've got a military accommodation, so it's an allocated house for us. So they actually dropped us at the house, and we were able to sleep that night at the house. Now, this is after we've been literally living out of suitcases now for the last 2.5 months, which is little compared to other people. I mean, I've seen it's actually been horrible out there. But yeah, the next day we woke up. The biggest priority was just to get the bank card and the bank account sorted out, because you can't do anything if you don't have the bank card. So the first 3 days was quite tough. We just tried to get some administration sorted out and driver's license and try and get the car bought, and I still had to go to work. I actually 2 days after arriving, I started work already.
Wow.
So we didn't have chance to, I don't know, well, obviously to explore, but I mean, we just tried to get everything like in a process. Get the internet. If you don't have internet, it's a nightmare. But luckily, the efficiency, that was the only advantage with quarantine. You could sort out a lot of those admin things while being in quarantine. So you could line up the dates and have stuff ready so that you don't have to do it when you arrive. So that was definitely a benefit with the quarantine. But yeah, it was so foreign, because Australia, I've never been to Australia. That's the only, never ever. So I've been a few places, but that was the strange thing, getting to Perth when we went out the evening after quarantine. Now, it didn't feel foreign, especially with sail now as well. It feels like South Africa in the 80s almost. It's like, I grew up in Bellville in Cape Town, and my wife said, we walk here, this is like Bellville.
It's very true.
Yeah, so
because you can walk out. It's South Africa without the safety problems, really.
Yeah, but even the cars, the fact that you drive on the same side of the road, the circles is the same, the robots is the same. So there's a lot of similarities. Obviously, the weather is a lot the same. So yeah, we use the opportunity now the weekend. This was actually the first time we had a bit of downtime. So we took the car and we went to 90 Mile Beach, which was, I mean, it's 30 kilometers from us. So it was nice for the kids just to get out. But yeah, it's we haven't had real chance because not the problem, but I mean, I've started working and I'm starting my course actually on Monday. So yeah, it's busy. I think the next, probably till December, it's just hectic.
And your wife, has she started working yet?
She's also starting tomorrow. Her course starts end of the month, so she's got about 2 weeks. But yeah, we have to start, and the kids are homeschooling. So, but luckily, I think the age helps with them. And in South Africa, they got used to doing the remote learning. So it's not a foreign concept. I'm just glad they're not small, because yes, I really feel for the people with small kids. It must be a big challenge. At least these ones you can tell them, you can ask them, and then the last resort you can threaten them, and they normally they fall in line.
I found that the best threat in my household is, I'm going to take away your iPad, and then suddenly, okay, Mum, I'll do it.
Yeah, these ones it's easy. You switch off the Wi-Fi and they pop out from wherever they were hiding, and so the Wi-Fi is a big negotiating chip.
Oh, that's so funny. It's so different to the way you and I grew up back in the day.
For sure. Yeah.
And so far, what's been the best thing for you about having been here, your 5 days that you've not been in quarantine?
I think probably and again, a thing I didn't expect is we knew there were a few South Africans in Sale, which is strange because it's quite remote. But just the amount of support we've had from South Africans, I never, ever expected that. I mean, even in Perth, I think I told you the story about the microwave. We were in quarantine, and within 2 hours after asking on Facebook, somebody delivers at the door a microwave that you can use. And that hasn't stopped. It's been a bit tiring because all of the people you've engaged with want to just quickly come and greet. So the last week, it was non-stop. But I mean, that has probably been the best. And with that, to know that you're not going to struggle alone. If there's really crunch time, you can call somebody. I mean, they've been through this. So I think it really, that probably out of everything has been the big bonus for me and the surprise.
That's good. So the Facebook groups obviously on Facebook, the South African groups on Facebook has been the way that you've engaged and found these people. Is that right?
Yeah, that is correct. And that's definitely one of the recommendations I would make to anybody considering moving. Even if you're only thinking about it or discussing it, join the Facebook group. There's 25,000 people on some of those groups. So the amount of knowledge and available it's just you're going to ask the question that's been asked 100 times.
Exactly. Don't reinvent the wheel.
No, you don't reinvent the wheel. And what's nice about it is you get the good and the bad answers. In terms of, you won't only hear the good stories, you'll hear the bad stories as well, which I think is important, because everybody deals with this differently. But that is definitely the Facebook groups it's immense in terms of what you can gain from it.
Yes, it's absolutely good. Which is what we're trying to achieve with these interviews. We're trying to give people a glimpse into what everybody else who's already here has gone through, and basically, correct me if you don't feel the same, Albert, but if you're in South Africa thinking, oh, I want to go over, you're really concerned and you're thinking, but am I going to make it? How am I going to settle in? All those things. The thing is, you and I and everybody else who are already in Australia had exactly the same feelings and concerns, and we made it here. So
I think that is I mean, that was one of our biggest things. I mean, I don't want to say we didn't consider leaving. The South Africa became a problem for us in terms of the future for the kids. I mean, they still had 5 years left, but we were concerned. My biggest concern was I didn't just want to leave the country and go somewhere and whatever, do something random. I mean, you want some stability. So for us, joining the Air Force was obviously an amazing opportunity. But I think, again, coming back to the Facebook group, the guys, and it's almost like it's a pact that the people have taken when they move over. They will always help. If there's a question asked, they will help. So if you have a question and it's a genuine concern, nobody will ever not answer you. That is the nice thing. People will give their honest opinions. And I think that is important. It's important that you can ask the questions. And the more answers you get, the more informed decision you'll make.
Absolutely. And on that same topic, I've asked what's the best for you so far. What's been the worst for you, or the hardest thing to have dealt with?
Sure. I think, and it's probably a soft issue, but the whole getting here was, I'm going to put it lightly, it was traumatic. And yes, I mean, not being over dramatic, but it's almost like we're going to probably have post-traumatic stress at some stage because of it. Just your air tickets being cancelled. Again, arriving at the embassy and being told, no, you're not on the flight. Then making phone calls and, okay, no, you're on the flight. Then arriving at the airport and having more issues. And I think that it took away a lot of the excitement. You were so emotionally drained when you eventually got here. You didn't have that, like almost going on holiday. You enjoying it. This was the whole travel was an absolute nightmare in terms of getting here. So I would definitely, for me now, And I mean, I think there's a lot of people that's going to have that story. I mean, there's still people struggling to get here. So, but definitely
I think the Prime Minister said yesterday, there's 4,000 Australians, just Australians, flying back into Australia every day. Every week. Not every day. No, I can't remember if it's every day. It must be every. Anyway, a lot of people still coming into the country from overseas. And yes, those people are all struggling to get onto planes because there is only a limited number of airplanes coming in. Well, we're glad you're now here, because now, we've got another pilot that can come and operate some planes.
Yeah, true.
Do you foresee any tricky bits between the way that you worked in South Africa versus the way that they're working here that you're aware of?
There's subtle. This legislation is different. So air law in terms of air rules is a little bit different. I'm fortunate the aircraft that I'm going to fly actually flew back in South Africa, so that will be very similar. But I think that was the other very appealing thing for us coming over is military culture is military culture, and so because it's part of the Commonwealth, the military structure and the way things happen, it's very similar. So there's so many similarities. So yes, the language at this stage, it's funny, but it is, especially if it's a raw Aussie accent, I must say it's challenging at this stage to follow. But you'll hear it that quickly. But yeah, that is really one of the big things for us, is that we're moving to something that it's actually familiar. The Air Force culture is the Air Force culture. It doesn't matter where you go. There's so many common denominators in it.
That's great. Yes, as you say, it's almost like moving from the one city in South Africa to another city in South Africa.
That is exactly. We spend quite a bit of time in Langebaan, which is where the Air Force does its pilot training. So it's also a rural setup. It's about 150 kilometers north of Cape Town. Now, the base here, it looks like it's a copy of each other. The trees, the buildings, it is so strange. It is, like I say, it's almost surreal. It feels like you just in a different town.
You might wake up tomorrow, Albert, and go, am I now in Australia or is it South Africa?
Yeah, true.
And in terms of people that considering, should I go to Australia now or shouldn't I do this? What's your advice that you'd give to South Africans?
Yeah, I think I think very important. You gotta start off by asking yourself, why do you want to move? I think a lot of people don't do that. They running away from a certain problem you have is not necessarily the answer. You honestly, and you gotta sit down and you gotta. It's a cliche, but write down what is the issue. Will it be solved? Are there any other options? So that to me would be. Australia is not necessarily your final option. I mean, and that's one thing that we learned. And I mean, it's quite a stressful process, the visa and everything. So we even made the decision and said that if this application is not successful, we've made the mental switch that we are going to move somewhere. So I think that is important. It's important to don't throw all your eggs in one basket. Yes, Australia it's a logical choice for South Africans because there's so many common denominators, but there's lots of other options, especially if you read the Facebook groups of South Africans staying abroad. I mean, it's literally, there are people all over the world.
Yes.
So you got to make peace with yourself to say that, why are we doing this? And what do we want to achieve at the end? And the reality is, and this is what we thought is, or what we strongly feel is, if it was meant for you to walk this path, you will go where you're meant to go to. If it's not Australia, it might be somewhere else, if that was your path. But you need to be open-minded about it. I think that also, the people, especially if the application process go tough, they go, it's a sign we shouldn't go. So if one door closes, it just forces you into a different direction.
But don't give up.
Yeah, I don't think you should. And I mean, it's very easy for me to say now because I mean we're sitting here. But again, we honestly, and we said that if this was not going to work out, we were gonna look at other options for sure, because we made the decision. Our kids need to have a better future somewhere else. It doesn't matter where it is or where the path ends up, but we have to do that. So yeah, I think
so which other countries did you consider, or didn't you get to that stage?
No, we did actually. My wife applied to Belgium because again to the military, but interesting, Belgium, Holland, all of them, you have to be European Union, you have to have a European Union passport. I didn't know that. So if it wasn't for that, I think there's a good chance we might have actually ended up there. So I've been to the US. The US was not my first choice. If we had to end up there, maybe, but so we were definitely, I was looking at Holland, Belgium, that type of area, because again, because of the Afrikaans and the culture, it's similar.
Yeah. And if you could do it all over again, would you do it?
Yeah, I would have just moved earlier to avoid this drama we had. So
nobody planned coronavirus though.
No, but again, it's funny when we signed the offers, or we accepted the offers in when was it? Let me think quickly. Let's say I can't remember. Let's say November or December, and it wasn't practical. I mean, you can't arrange a move in 15 days, especially not over December. But I clearly remember telling my wife and said, we need to get there as soon as possible, because you never know what can happen. Okay, obviously nobody predicted Corona, but no, I will definitely. And I mean, it's early days. I mean, it's again, we realistic and understand that this is like a honeymoon phase, and the euphoria is there, and we're super excited to be here. But I mean, the next few months is going to be tough. I mean, both of us on course, kids with new schools. I mean, English is not their first language, so it's going to be tough. But I mean, we've seen now kids adapt so quickly. It's insane. They just immediately adapt.
We find that parents are usually the most concerned about their kids, because the kids say, oh, I don't want to move. I don't want to leave my friends behind. And then obviously the parents and the kids move here. And we find that after a month, 2 or 3, the kids have long forgotten about South Africa and the friends there. Yeah. Then you still get the parents hanging on, oh, but South Africa. And that's usually where the problem is. It's the parents who struggle to switch over. The kids move on before you even know it, as we say in Australia. With 2 shakes of a lamb's tail, the kids have just slotted in, because they get into that system that's there. They go to school, they make new friends, and they're accepted, and it happens, and you're part of the structure and the system.
Yeah. Well, we've seen now with the oldest one, while in quarantine, one of the teachers that's been at the school for the last 15 years is an ex-South African. So she engaged with us, and she introduced an Afrikaans kid in the oldest one's class. So they started chatting. So they met now 2 days ago, and you can immediately see, well, she sorted. I mean, you only need one. You need one, and then like you say, they move on quickly. So.
And the other thing, you said that you signed the offer in November, December last year, but you only came over in August this year. What happened between then and August?
It was the main thing is, like I say, I think we signed end of November. So it was a practical thing. There's no chance you can sell your house, arrange a move. So it was purely a practical thing to say, okay, I'm not going to take the kid out of the school in the first term. So we'll do it midterm. So it was purely out of practical sense that we got a date. The 6th of June was my enlistment date at the High Commission in Pretoria, and we would have flown the 7th. So that's just the way the numbers worked out. There was just no chance to arrange everything.
So the Royal Air Force here was happy for you guys to come in only in November. August.
July. Yeah. So
July.
The main thing is they wanted us to be not later than, I think, the 25th of September, because that's when my wife's course would have started. Mine was a little bit more flexible. There wasn't a specific target date for me, but it ended up that we just got to that middle date. But I mean, all of that just fell by the wayside when Corona struck. But yeah, I think I don't know. I don't think you must ponder too long. If you did your homework well enough and you've convinced yourself that you are doing it for the right reasons, there's no reason, obviously barring practical things like the house was the issue. I mean, how do you sell a house in lockdown? That was horrific. But I mean,
yeah, how did you do that? If you don't mind, it's like
no, it's just one of those things. We said we should actually write these things down because I think the memories will fade over time. But I mean, it's just, there's so many things that fell in place for us that you would be arrogant to think that this was not meant to be. We had the house on private property, and because of lockdown, nothing happened. So we literally said the Sunday, okay, well, we're not going to sell the house. So Monday, we're going to sign because we had a person to rent the house. And then that Saturday evening, somebody called again. It was just after, I think we went to stage 3 or something with lockdown. And they said they want to come and view the house on Sunday morning. And I played open cards from the beginning. I said, listen, we're not going to waste each other's time. I've got somebody that's going to rent the house. So if you're not serious, this is what it is. And then they made an offer the next day. So it was...
Wow.
Yeah, no, it was one of those things.
And has the house settled into the new people's name yet, or is it? Are you still waiting for transfer?
No, that also
all happened.
Yeah, so it actually registered. I think the day after we were in Doha because we had quite a long layover. So while we were in Doha, the information going through that the house was registered because I wanted to leave with as little baggage as possible. It's just the admin is a nightmare. Times and you're not there, so we really try to settle as much as we can while we had the opportunity. But yeah, so we've actually got very little left back there.
So tell me, what did you decide to bring with you in your move?
Again, we're fortunate. They paid for a 40-foot container, so
that's big.
It's massive. And again, we were fortunate. We were able to view the house that was allocated to us beforehand. So we knew how many rooms. And so we let go of the things that we knew that was not going to work. But being in the house now, it is still smaller than you expect. So the container actually got offloaded 2 days ago in Melbourne. So it's going through the whole customs. So I'm thinking I don't know, probably 3 weeks we'll get all the furniture. But I mean, there's a lot of things we're not going to be able to use. But we brought most of the stuff because it didn't cost us a cent. I think it's a difficult, and I mean, if you see the Facebook groups, there's always the sides, sell everything, bring some. It's a difficult thing. You're going to have to decide for yourself because the reality is you can sell everything, but you don't get, you lose a lot when you sell. And yes, some of the stuff it's quite expensive this side. So I think you're gonna, again, it's not like much of those things. You're gonna make a decision and
just stick with it.
And stick with it and live with it.
Yeah.
There's no right
Nothing
or wrong.
That's right. There's never going to be a 100% perfect option. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some at some end of the scale. So I mean, just accept what you do and go on.
I mean, we made the decision to bring our 2 cats over, which is astronomically expensive. And the problem is they now can't get flights out of South Africa. So they're sitting in a cattery that side. And I mean, obviously the bill is just running up. So but again, it's a decision we made, and you must live with it. It is what it is.
So, if you don't mind me asking, does the Air Force pay for you to bring your pets over?
No. So that was an expense we had to incur. So that was for our own pocket. But again, and I'm going to keep on hammering on the Facebook groups, but I think it's important. People need to. I'm not a big Facebooker, but I must say the value in the knowledge in those groups is really, especially if you in the dark, there's so much information available. And just the cats are still young, especially for the kids. They just said that if you can and you can afford it to bring an animal over, it just makes the transition for the kids a lot easier. It's something familiar. It completes the family, the unit. So we made that decision.
I have to say, it's changed a lot from when I came over 15 years ago versus what the quarantining for the pets are now. Because now it's something like 10 days or something that they got to be in quarantine on this side.
That's exactly.
I think the pets have a shorter quarantine now than what the humans have.
No, it's exactly. They literally they land here in Melbourne, 10 days quarantine, and then they can leave. What they did is they changed the rules a little bit back in South Africa. So your prep work is, instead of doing the stuff this side now, a lot of the prep work in terms of vaccination stuff gets done back in South Africa. So I think they had an issue whereby pets arrived here and they sit with a problem. They can't clear the pet. Now, what do they do now? The pet's already here. So I think that's how the rules. But I mean, it's better that way. I mean, you don't want them sitting this side for too long. But yeah, we still hopeful. We don't have a definite date yet. So,
but their paperwork's done. Everything is ready. They're literally waiting for a flight.
They've got import permits and everything, so they're literally waiting for a flight to go. But yeah, at this stage, it's not only the humans that are capped, apparently the pets as well.
Do you mind telling us what you paid for or will be paying for a flight for the pets?
If you take into, I honestly don't know what the flights are going to be now, but let's say pre-lockdown, and this is now, it doesn't matter if it's a cat or a dog, you basically pay, it's 50,000 Rand per animal. Now, that includes your flights, it includes your import permit is actually quite expensive. I think it's 35,000 Rand alone just for the import permit. Then you've got your vaccinations and stuff. But you can, if you want to plan, work on 50,000 Rand per animal. That's what it's
for the whole thing, for the flights and everything. Yes. Injections of blood tests. I think there's a lot of blood tests there.
Exactly. So that's the ballpark figure to work on.
Thank you so much, Albert, for talking to us. It's been really good to hear your fresh from the boat story, or fresh from the plane. It's very interesting to hear these things because, as I said earlier, people in a misconception where they think nobody comes into Australia at this point in time. But you're living proof that, firstly, it's possible, and secondly, Australia is still accepting people from other countries in.
Yeah, if I can maybe just add one thing that I didn't say, and I said now the South Africans, it was one of the surprising and highlights the South Africans being in welcoming. But one thing we also did not expect is the openness of the Australians. I mean, we look at them on the rugby field and the cricket field, and they do come over as arrogant. But it's been an absolute eye opener walking here, and I mean, they obviously know you're not local, but there was not one piece of hostility towards us. People want to help. They very, I mean, that just blew our mind. And this was now from Perth to Sale. It's just people want to help, and they accept, because especially with Corona, I mean, we felt specifically, you coming here now and you're potentially taking a job of a local person that could do it now, but they just it's never come up. So like you say, the people are very accepting, which was a huge surprise. I thought we're going to first have to earn a bit of respect, and which is not the case. They accept you and you go on. So
they have something here called Mateship, which you've started experiencing that already, and we have seen it firsthand, where people really look after other people, and whether you know them or you don't know them, they always extend that helping hand. And it's called mateship. It's looking after a mate, looking after a friend as if it is your friend. And
for sure,
that's been really heartwarming for us as well. As non-Aussies, now Aussies, but doesn't matter how long you're here for. You always have the accent, and people will always refer to me as the South African, although I've been Australian for over 10 years. I'm still the South African. So
no, for sure.
Thanks again for spending your time with us tonight. I really appreciate it. And we'd love to talk to you in a few months' time and see how you guys have settled in, if that's okay.
Perfect, definitely. Yeah, and good luck. Good luck to everybody. I think it's a very personal journey. People don't take other people's comments serious. Definitely, it's a personal journey that you and your family have to deal with. It's different for each person, but inevitably you are the ones that's going to either be successful or not successful. It's not going to be dependent on somebody else. So definitely embrace it. It is. We're seeing it as a massive adventure. So we're looking forward to. Yeah, thanks a lot.
Awesome. It's my pleasure. Have a lovely evening.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Cheers.
All right. So thank you so much for joining me today. If you had fun, please remember to hit that subscribe button, and then it'll make sure that you never miss a thing. I'll see you same time and same place next week. Bye for now.